Would it make a difference to your lives if you got paid at the end of every week? It'd make a massive difference. Look at how the bee operates, or what it does. Its function is just to serve humanity. Without the bee... Hey, thanks everyone.
We want to take you on a journey to the future. A world where the smartest, most creative minds from all around the globe come together to tackle the biggest challenges on Earth, to imagine the impossible and change the world. That future is now. Born in response to a challenge to reimagine transportation, rLoop is a global network, including some of the brightest minds on the planet. And through the power of crowdsourced engineering, we have created levitating pods capable of incredible speeds. It's an amazing leap forward, made possible by a bold, new, globally connected way of working, by a shared desire to create a better future for mankind, and the imagination to believe that anything is possible. And we mean anything. Because if the collective imaginations of rLoop can combine to invent, design, and engineer a new future mode of transport and an entirely new way of working, just imagine what we might achieve next. Go on, we dare you. Tomorrow isn't going to wait for us. The world is changing right now, and we are driving that change. Join us. Help us make the impossible possible. And together, let's create the future we dream of.
So last talk, we'll make it quick. It will be exciting, I promise. Has anybody heard of rLoop before? 1, 2, 3, hey, fans, 4. Okay, so when we started this 4 years ago, June 15th, 2019 was our 4-year birthday. When we started this, there was a dream of being on a remote, exotic island and working and still changing the world. Today, that dream has come true. So thanks to the organizers for having us here. But let's start. Who's old enough or young enough to remember 1985? Wow, lots of young ones here, right? So I was 5 years old, turning 6 on December 18. My uncle took me to the cinemas and I watched Back to the Future. And I actually thought 2015 was going to be like that. But 2015's come and gone, and what's happened? We're not flying around. Peter Thiel said it best: we wanted flying cars, instead we got an upgrade on Twitter, right? So why aren't we flying around? The problem is what we call the innovation bottleneck. Historically, or over the last couple of decades, we have data, and we see that venture capitalists and the guys have escaped. Venture capitalists are one of the problems. They invest into organizations that want quicker return on investment. Bankers are another problem. They, again, invest in organizations that have assets, so startups are out of the question. And all of this is causing a problem when it comes to innovation. Now, innovation is required for economic growth. If California didn't exist in America potentially, its GDP would be the same as Africa. So innovation is hugely, hugely important. So what's the solution? Moonshot projects. It has to be innovation in projects that allows for hardware manufacturing, not just software manufacturing, software development. So our mission is to develop and launch innovative technology fueled by a genuine desire to change the world. How are we going to do it? Decentralized high technology, right? So first, we need to find our innovators. Who are the innovators? It's all of you. It's why you're here. It's to learn something, to apply something, take it back to the real world, and make that change. I found all my innovators. Now let's look for a problem that's never been a new problem or a new solution that's required. And in this case, or in our case, it was the Hyperloop, a new mode of transportation. The story goes, in 2013, Elon Musk came out with a white paper. June 2015, he wasn't happy with the speed of development. And in June 2015, he announced it as a global competition. So we have an internal joke at rLoop, which is Elon Musk and Reddit had a baby, and rLoop was born. And how did that happen? Well, in June 2015, he announced a global competition on the SpaceX subreddit. At the time, I think there was about 60 or 70,000 people in the SpaceX subreddit. And I was in my small little village in Blackburn, and so were many other people around the world on the same thread when the announcement was made, and somebody said, why don't we try and put a competition team together online? Most of the resources that we'll need will potentially be in the SpaceX subreddit, so we can tap into these resources. Idiots like me said, yeah, that's a great idea, let's give it a shot. Now, we weren't developing software, we were developing the future of transport, something that's never been done before. So no capital, no money, SpaceX subreddit, stranger says, let's do this, and suddenly I say, yes, let's do this, yeah, good idea. And a few of us joined, and just like that, people started to join, and that's how rLoop was born. Our team of experts came from all over the world. It was a very tight schedule. Initially, when the competition was announced, there were about 2,000 teams that entered the call. Most of them companies or high-end universities. And then you had a bunch of guys from the internet that were a bunch of nobodies. Various milestones for the competition, and quite strict milestones. We had to submit technology reports to SpaceX for what we've designed and developed, and SpaceX would then choose the teams and so forth. So from 2,000 teams, it went down to about 1,200, and about 120 teams were selected to go to Texas A&M to present their designs to SpaceX and Tesla engineers. At the time, I think that weekend, there were about 185 teams that turned up, and rLoop was one of them. And only 12 teams were going to be selected. So the chances of a bunch of guys from the internet being selected wasn't very high, especially when most of our team were students, and there were two categories. There was a student category and a non-student category. But because the handful of us were not students, we were thrown into the non-student category, and we were competing against some big organizations. We got selected, we won the non-student category, and we were on our way to, well, we've designed it, now we had to build it. The problem started, and actually this was the first award we got from Elon Musk, when we got down to the last 12 teams. The problem started here. Well, there was the engineering design, which we did remotely from the beginning, and it worked quite well. There was some challenges, and we overcame them, but really the issue was trying to build something that you've designed. Now, it's easy to draw a car on a piece of paper, but try and build that. It's a different ballgame. I was in a full-time job. Most of our guys were in a full-time job or at college or university. So trying to find people to build something was extremely, extremely difficult at first. What we did was we looked for a sponsor. The sponsor gave us a cool R&D center in Silicon Valley opposite Facebook. We're still there today. And we contacted the local colleges and universities to ask students to come and assist us, and in return, they would gain experience. Them same students that did that are now employed at one of the household companies in Silicon Valley that we would have heard of. June 2015 is when the competition was announced. We had the design stage, we got down to the last 12 teams, we had the build stage. January 2017, we had to turn up to SpaceX with our complete build. This is a great picture for us. About 60, 65 people from all over the world turned up at SpaceX in Hawthorne, from about 21 countries at the time. Some of us here have been working with each other for 2 years and never met. Some of us have been working on the tech that we've designed and built, but never touched it. Physically never touched it, until it was competition week. And rLoop won the Innovation Award. And that was a huge, huge, huge achievement for our community, and a huge milestone. We didn't think we were going to get there, but we did. And what was it that drove us there? What was our ultimate success? It was just passion. Passion to engineer, passion to do something that can benefit humanity and mankind. This was our second award from SpaceX and Elon Musk, which today feels like ages ago, because a lot's happened since. Elon Musk came to our stand. He was hugely impressed with not only what we built, and we built a full scalable prototype. He was very impressed with how we built it. And the second competition, which was in August 2017, he personally asked us to come back. Now, the second competition and every competition after that has only been student teams, so we weren't allowed to compete. SpaceX are the only ones that have the facilities to test Hyperloop technology, so they have a vacuum chamber. That's the biggest vacuum chamber in volume in the world. So we could test our Hyperloop pod there. They have a track. Even today, SpaceX are the only ones that have the one mile Hyperloop test track. No other company has that. So SpaceX are the only ones that have the facilities. And Elon Musk asked us personally to come back, and which we did. In August 20th, 2017, we went back to test our Hyperloop pod further. And we received some world-first statuses in what we developed. It's 2019 now, right? And even in 2019, other Hyperloop companies that have raised hundreds of millions haven't developed tech anywhere close to what we've developed, or haven't even demonstrated any of that tech, whereas we did that 2 years ago. It says over 3 years in. We're actually 4 years old now. We're a globally distributed team. We're over, on my last count, just over 1,500 engineers, or 1,500 people. Brianna doesn't like it when I say engineers, because she's an architect. So we're about 1,500 engineers from more than 59 countries. Not only have we won the SpaceX award, we've also picked up some other international awards. We've been covered by many press, including Wired magazine, who did a brilliant 5-part documentary on us. But you ain't seen nothing yet. Remember 1985 and that dream of flying?
Story about flying. Turbine engines, lightweight materials, vertical lift, propulsion, good old-fashioned guts. We have all dreamed of taking to the sky. It's time to make it real. This is a challenge for inventors, innovators, engineers, enthusiasts, designers, and dreamers. To build a personal flying device to change the way we travel. This is a competition sponsored by Boeing. Yes, the Boeing that makes everything cool. This is your chance to beat gravity, a chance to win money, a chance to make history. Come join us as we take to the skies. Ready, set, go fly.
So shortly after winning the Hyperloop competition, what we realized was we've built this amazing community who are just driven on passion. What should we do? We can carry on developing Hyperloop tech, or we could enter another competition. Some of the community was so burnt out during the build process, including myself. I had to take a 3-month break after winning the competition. We were absolutely shattered. I have a day job, and every spare minute was working on the Hyperloop, and that was the same for everybody else. My toilet breaks started getting longer. I stopped driving. I started commuting instead to try and buy some more time, and that's how I realized more time. So some of the community was quite burnt out. Some of the guys really just wanted to win the competition. They'd done that, didn't want to do anything else. Some of the other guys wanted to carry on developing Hyperloop tech. Some of the other guys were quite innovative and wanted to focus on other areas. And I thought to myself, okay, this is a brilliant time to enter another competition. Competitions for our community is quite good because we have day jobs, but the competitions give us strict milestones or dates that we can work towards. And whilst we might be quite slow during the build-up of it over the last couple of weeks, we'll have 500 or 700 people working at any one time, and our product gets developed. So the second competition that we entered to see how the community would react and behave and how we'd perform, competition by GoFly, sponsored by Boeing. And what we did was we designed and built a flying vehicle. So it's a VTOL device, completely autonomous. Think of it as a motorcycle for the sky. And whilst we are developing engineering remotely, we're also trying to develop tools that can bring engineering costs down drastically. So here you see in a virtual environment, before we go into manufacturing, we are actually building it. So when you're in manufacturing, you're saving costs, you're saving time. You know exactly how the build process needs to go, and it's a lot quicker. This is our model prototype that we first built. This was around October last year. Some of these images are quite old, but if you go onto our website, this is a test flight for our model. And this is us starting to build a full scale. Again, this image is quite old. I was just reading from my team. We've finished the full build now, and today was the first test flight for the full build. So if you go into social media, you'll see some images. And GoFly had the competition. There were about 900 teams and 3 phases. Now there's only a dozen teams left. We are again one of them, and we're in the final phase. Let's go back to the beginning, right? So what did we start with? We started with the Hyperloop. We designed and built a scalable prototype for the Hyperloop competition. But after winning, it was going back to the drawing board to now think of designing and building a full scale. So this is what we did. A passenger and both cargo redesigned a full scale. And it's a complete modular design. So, okay, we've designed it, we've built it, we've done all of this at no cost. In the beginning, we were like every other startup. We wanted to go to VCs, and we were in Silicon Valley, so I was going to venture capitalists quite regularly. But we had no full-time employees. I had a day job. Everybody else had a day job. So when it came to venture capitalists, the answer was, guys, you're not investable. And that was cool at the time. And over the last couple of years, I mean, the last two guys were really nice, so I don't want to knock them too much, but my personal view over the last couple of years when it comes to venture capitalists is this. My view today, when it comes to venture capitalists, is this. So you don't need them, and I'll explain why. So what is it that we've become? It's a hive mind. It's people from all around the world interacting, but working when you have the time, and working on aspects that you are personally interested in. Now, thinking of an organization like Boeing. If you go past the reception is still administration, right? You go past the reception, you'll see many engineering departments, but you'll also see many administration departments and PR departments to support the whole organization, and all will be structured exactly the same way, but in a complete digital manner. From day one, we worked remotely, and we still work remotely today, and even today, we have no full-time employees. But we've been able to scale up. What started off as a Hyperloop organization for a competition today has become a global innovation platform. And our innovators have many ideas. So we've been able to provide the tools and support services and resources required to bring that idea to reality. Now, most people go to venture capitalists to employ people. You employ people to engineer. We've been able to take the employment capital out, and we engineer every day at no cost. And whilst we do that, we're creating, over time, we've realized we've created value, huge amounts of value. Today, we have a good couple of dozen patents and IPs that we can register. But who owns that? It's owned by all of you guys, right? Because each one of you contributed. How do we ensure that everybody gets its contribution? We can lock everybody's cognitive power on the blockchain. So any value that's realized over time, that value goes back to the ecosystem. But today we have multiple projects on the platform. And I'll give you another example. Exponential organizations today. So we've developed all this tech, but what we discovered by accident, and most great inventions are discovered by accident, was the power of the community that we were building and the power of the people that we were attracting. And just like the Hyperloop, we designed and built it using my innovators in this room. What we realized is what we were developing was really the future of work. Now everyone's talking about remote working. That remote working, since the internet communication, it has become easier, right? And this is the scale of remote working. So pre-internet era, everyone was at number 1, and remote working, it's going somewhere between 3 and 4, and we like to think we're around 5. And I'd love to see another organization that's floating around there. Everybody's seen that or is doing that. We're all doing this over the last couple of days. That's where I want to be, on a mountain somewhere, on top of Everest, or in a monastery in Japan somewhere, right? Something I heard as a child was, pay a man his due before his sweat dries. Now, everybody works. We've already talked about remote working and how we're going to do it, but nobody's really talking about the economics of work. So if anybody that's remote working will still be following traditional models. You'll be working for a month and getting paid at the end of the month. This is something that's really bothered me. How do you pay a man his due before his sweat dries? Now, most companies can pay everybody a month in advance, but they don't. We've been bred to believe that we slog for a month and get paid at the end of the month. But what does it cost organizations to pay everybody at the end of the week? Nothing. It's just a press of a button. Cash flows and forecasts are usually calculated for the whole year. Would it make a difference to your lives if you got paid at the end of every week? It'd make a massive difference. What if you guys got paid at the end of every day? Again, it'd make a huge difference. Now, rLoop works on microtasks. So we break down subsystems to microtasks, and anyone can pick up the microtasks. So for example, if we were drawing the Hyperloop pod, one microtask would say, right, draw this, somebody would say, draw this, and anyone can continue that effort. Just like employment, you're working for a week or for a month, but effectively all you're doing is processes and tasks. So why can't you get paid at the end of every process? You can't do that today because tech is available to us to be able to do that. So anyone, and whilst we're working remotely or in Bali, you don't want to work for a month and get paid at the end of the month. People don't understand personal situations. But if you can change the economics of that, we can go back to the first principles and pay people at the end of completion of a task. And that in itself is massive. Not just that. Everybody works. Now, you work for an organization and IP and patents are created. Who holds that value? It's the company, right? They're just paying you, you're doing your job. In this case, we can change the economics for that too. Whilst you're being remunerated for work that you do by the completion of the task, all of the value that's created can be benefited and shared within the community and ecosystem as well. This is something that happened 30 miles from where I live. It was an individual that was owed about £600, around $800. For one reason or another, he wasn't paid on time. And it was a hotel that was completely demolished by him. I mean, it was ready to be opened up in a week. And he just went inside with one of these machines and completely totaled it. Why am I showing you guys this? Again, it goes back to the economics of work. Pay a man his due before his sweat dries. Now, everyone's talking about the destruction and damage this individual caused, but nobody's talking about the stress that he personally would have been under to create that much rage to do that. It's really, really important. Some of the guys were talking about trust earlier. It's really, really important that we put our innovators first. If we free the mind up, we will really be able to innovate. Just like that, rLoop has been able to work under the stress of making profit, under the stress of having capital to pay employees. And it's allowed us to do something great. It's allowed us to be really, really creative. It's allowed us to contact the state of China. Today become JV owners of the One Belt, which is completely unheard of. It's allowed us to develop huge amounts of tech at no cost. I was saying earlier, exponential organizations today are platforms. So if we were to take the example of Airbnb, what does it cost Airbnb? 5 minutes, okay. What does it cost Airbnb to put up a room? It doesn't cost them anything, it costs you. You take the picture, you host the guests, you write up the description. Just like that, rLoop has become an innovation platform today, and what we've been able to do is bring R&D costs down to zero. Literally, it doesn't cost us anything to engineer. And I constantly look for models or examples that we can relate to, and there is none. There absolutely is none. But when I go back to nature, this is where I end up. And if we look at how the bee operates or what it does, its function is just to serve humanity. Without the bee, we would see no little greenery. We'd have little or no flowers. Whoever's seen the Bee movie, you'll see that they went on strike and suddenly all the greenery in the world disappeared. Bees just serve humanity. 4 years in work, rLoop is for really everyone, but it's not for anyone. And I say that because the mindset needs to be quite different. You are operating and working completely out of passion. You're not being remunerated initially for what we were doing. There was no remuneration model. We were just a competition team. But what we found is people that have joined our community have this mindset. And just like the bee, we're developing complex structures like hives today. And just like the bee, it has a waste product, honey, which again serves humanity. In our case, our waste product is IP and patents. Huge amounts of value. Contracts, JVs that we've now signed, huge amounts of value that's shared with everybody that's been involved. So it's not just about remote working, it's about going back to first principles. And it's about trying to see how we can not necessarily use existing or past models in the way that we're working today, remotely. Can we recreate completely new models? And we absolutely can. Today, rLoop's a $1 billion organization. Who owns it? It's owned completely by the crowd. Thank you very much.